another episode of With the Chiefs.
Wait. Man, I need more rest.
I hope I've got your last name right there.
It's a very good pronunciation.
You should know better than that now, Dom.
I know.
All right, welcome back to another episode of With the Chiefs. We don't have a guest today. It's just Dom and I. Dom, how you doing?
Good, mate. Yeah, a little tired, but not too bad. What about you, Chief?
A little tired. Why? What happened yesterday? Anything?
Yeah, big one yesterday. 6-hour run. 85 kilometres, I think. Yeah, very big run. What about you, mate? You must be a little tired after your run this morning.
Yeah, a whopping 10 kilometres. No, it was good. It was good this morning. I mean, I guess we can kick off by, talking about, might as well do our normal, training recap. Sorry about that. I'll probably cut that, but anyway, training recap. So maybe go through your week, Dom, and then obviously let's dig into the race a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So this week, not a lot of running. I knew you had this 6-hour thing on, and I think there was this. It was World Running Day or Global Running Day on Wednesday.
Oh, I saw that on Garmin sent me a notification.
Did you go for a run?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah. Good on you, celebrating World Running Day.
Yeah.
There was the Under Armour all-out mile at the SCG, which was pretty cool. You get to run a race around the SCG. So I did that. I went out very quick and faded very hard.
How quick did you go out?
I don't know. It wasn't a very quick race, but I was still in the lead, and I think I had no business being in the lead. Like, it was a race with a lot of people faster than me. I think Sam Shield, previous guest, he was there, and Kieran Tall got the win there.
So you went out charging ahead, Kieran Tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of knew, I don't have a chance here, so I may as well just make the most of it. But
yeah.
Whatever.
Well, when did you realize it was a bit quick?
Oh, straight away I made the decision. Well, I don't know. I sat in and I was like, there's a lot of people here who are much faster than I am over a mile. So I just went, fuck it, may as well have a bit of fun with this rather than just running a mile that I couldn't really care less about. So, I just took off and put a little gap on the field, but probably about 500 metres in, 600 metres in, everyone caught me, and that was like the end of it. Like, I was really struggling and going backwards after that. But yeah, after the race, my asthma flared up a little bit, and got like a bit of a, I don't know, chest infection or something. So yeah, I was just trying to get over that and get on top of it before the 6-hour on Saturday.
Yep.
Which was, I don't know, I was tossing up whether I was even going to run or not. I decided on the day that I felt okay enough to race. Went out and did my thing. Again, went out too quick. I think doesn't matter what distance, I'll always go out too quick.
What was the you had a bit of a a rationale for going out too quick in the mile. It's more of a let's see what happens. Did you?
Yeah.
What were you thinking in the 6-hour?
The 6-hour, I don't know. I felt good. I guess marathon pace feels good. So it's hard to kind of pace yourself in these longer events, but it's something that I need to get better at, especially with the 100-mile race coming up. I think that's going to be a different kettle of fish, though, because if you blow up in a 100-mile race, it can go pretty bad.
A long day.
I'm going to be out there for 20 hours, so it's like, what? I ran for 6 hours recently, but for 20 hours, if you blow up in the first 2 or 3 hours, yeah, you're going to be paying the price.
Yeah.
But yeah, blew up a little bit, but I know I was pretty happy. Like mentally, I kind of went through the marathon in 2:41, which is pretty quick. I think, yeah, considering my marathon PB is only like, I don't know, 9 minutes quicker. Yeah, that's probably not ideal.
Well, how are you feeling through the marathon split?
Felt good, felt fine. Like, yeah, like not too bad. And then I faded to like 4:30 kind of pace for the rest of the run.
Yep.
Which I was pretty proud of. Like in the past, like when I did the 12 hour, I went out hard as well. And when I blew up, I really blew up and was doing like 6-minute Ks and had to stop a couple of times and stuff like that. So I think just mentally, I was pretty proud that I could hang on and keep kind of pushing out the 4:30s. But yeah, I knew that the under 30 record was 85 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, kind of had that in the back of my mind, and like going out in the marathon, I knew I'm well ahead on that. I've got so I need, it's basically 2 sub 3 hour marathons that you need to do to run 85 Ks in 6 hours. So the 2:41 had me 19 minutes ahead. So I was like, okay, that's all right. Like we're doing okay.
Yeah.
But then I think like I was going 4:30-ish kind of Ks, which was kind of like right on what I needed. And yeah, then with like an hour to go, I was thinking like, oh, I don't think I'm going to get this record. So yeah, but I spoke with like Michael DeStefano, the guy who was crewing me, and he was like looking up all how I was tracking and what times I needed to do and stuff like that. So he said, no, you could still be on here. Just focus and knuckle down and just hold the 4:30s. So mentally knowing like, yeah, if I can just keep pushing, I'll get this record, then that kind of really kept me going. I think if I'd missed the record, I would have been pretty pissed off. Yeah.
How much did it help you push mentally, knowing that the record was still? Do you think it would have been much more difficult if, for example, you knew there was no chance?
Yeah, definitely. Like I was having thoughts of like pulling out and stuff. Like, but I think everyone has that a little bit at some point. But yeah, that definitely kept me in it, and I feel like I never really felt that kind of flow state at all during the race. Like the whole time I was kind of pretty conscious of other things and stuff like that. Like I never really got in the zone, whereas like, yeah, I don't know. In fact, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But yeah, I think with all the people on the track and just stressing out about the record, things like that, I never really just got that good rhythm and found myself in the zone. I think, yeah, probably being sick and all of that as well in the lead up. Like I didn't have any expectations, and I don't know, it was kind of like just a ticker box activity that I was going into it with. But yeah,
that's 6 hours, Dom. 6 hour race is very difficult ticker box activity in my view.
Well, as it unfolded, I I knew I had to like get training for the 100 miles. So
yeah.
But
what I'm saying is normally it's like, all right, we'll do a 5K in the build up. It's like, yeah, tick that box. It's like 6 hours still relatively is a massive commitment. So,
definitely,
but obviously you rose to the occasion. But how would you're talking about the flow state? Would you say you definitely got in that frame of mind much easier in the 12 hour? Like if you compare the two?
Definitely. I think, in the 12 hour, I felt like my headspace was just a lot better. Like I was, I didn't have any pressure on myself about breaking records and things like that. And I had like thought about the race a lot more in the lead up to it. Like that was the big thing I was doing. So that definitely helped as well. And I feel like because it's 12 hours, like you almost have to find that state at some point. And yeah, I don't know. I just found it much easier. Like, yeah, it was pretty windy yesterday as well, so that kind of plays with your headspace a bit. Like every time you go into the headwind, you're like, oh, this sucks. Like, what am I doing?
And every time you go into the headwind, it's 400-meter track, so it's like it's a
yeah.
constant reminder.
Yeah, exactly. So that like definitely played a part as well, just mentally. I don't think it affected the performance that much, probably, but yeah, all those little things. But yeah, an hour to go, I was on track, and yeah, I was able to just grind it out. And in the end, I got the record by like 600 meters. So like, I don't know, a minute 30 or 2 minutes, which is pretty close.
Did you know where you were sitting when you were running the last 600?
Like,
did you know
they
you
told
had to
me
run
like
hard or something?
When I broke the record, they said, they had like a announcement saying Dominic Bullock's just broken the under 30 record.
Right.
So yeah, after that, it was like a bit of a relief. And when there's like the last 10 minutes, it's a bit easier to sort of G yourself up and really push.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a cool event. I really like it, like around the track. It's so cool just being able to run with other people the whole time, like regardless of your ability, you're all sort of in the same boat suffering together. And it was really cool. After the race, they like go through and read out everyone's results. And there was another guy there who was going for the age group record for, I think, the under 70s. And he's 69 years old, and his birthday was in 1 week. So this was kind of like the last shot at it, and he missed the record by 200 meters.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, geez, thank God that wasn't me. Like, that would suck, because it's just, yeah, such a big effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool day. I really liked that event. I think I'd do it again for sure.
So going through 241, right?
Yeah.
And so when did you say? You said you started falling off what, halfway through? I can't remember exactly. It was that you said you changed to 430s.
Probably, yeah, kind of like after the marathon around then.
Right.
Yeah, that's like when, yeah, it kind of just hits you, and yeah, just.
Did you go through after that? Did you go through ups and downs, or was the last hour the most brutal? Yeah. Or what about in the back part of the race how was that?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the last bit of the race isn't too bad. It's sort of just that in between bit, but the whole time I was kind of just breaking it down into 5Ks. Like I had a split on my watch for 5Ks, so I'd run 5Ks like hard, or just as hard as I could go, and then have a drink or a gel. And while I'm just consuming that, just take it easier, which like it wasn't too easy. Like looking at the splits, I was still probably running like 450s if I was doing 430s, probably only 20 seconds slower than what the hard effort was. And at the start of the race, it was like, I think I was doing like, 330s, 340s, and then 4-minute Ks still for the easy bit when I was like having a gel or whatever. So I found that was a good strategy mentally. Like it just sort of took it away that I just have to focus on the next 5K ahead. And then as I got closer to the end of the race, I'm just like, okay, I just need to do 5 more of these 5Ks. Like that's not too bad. Yeah. So that's kind of what my strategy was mentally. But yeah.
5Ks. I like it. I don't know. I just can't think of anything more mentally demoralizing than running around a track when you're hurting and still having 2-3 hours to go. I can't personally. I can't get my head around it. But maybe it's something if you were there, it would be, or if it was something you were training for. I don't know. I just think about running 5K around a track, and it's like, I guess obviously the intensity is vastly like different, but a noble effort, Dom.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I kind of like don't mind it too much because you've got everyone else like right there with you, and that kind of fires you up to keep going. Whereas like if you were doing like a big race on the trails, you're probably going to be on your own.
Yeah.
And like if you're on your own and you think, oh shit, I've got, I don't know, what, 50 Ks to go or something, like that's going to be a lot worse than being on a track with a bunch of other people. Your crew right there every lap. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of, it's a pretty easy sort of environment. Like it takes out all the other stresses that you have to face. Like if you're on the trail, you got hills and everything else to deal with as well. Like,
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy way to do it, really.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess from that perspective, it's adding the fact that people are there, like you said, would be a big boost. Yeah, shit, or on the trails.
Yeah,
no
absolutely.
way.
Yeah.
No. So how are you feeling in terms of fatigue? How are you feeling after the race, and also how are you feeling today?
After the race, I felt okay. Like, I guess compared to the 12-hour, like I was really like just brain foggy, and like the next day I like couldn't even really walk. But today I feel like okay. I feel like I'm a bit sick again, but that was kind of expected. I still walked up to the shops and have been I don't know, plodding around doing stuff. So yeah, it hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, comparable to marathon, like post marathon.
Yeah, feels similar to like the first marathon that I ever did. But yeah, it's funny, like, because it's a pretty similar effort to the Red Bull thing I did, but that was only 3.5 hours. But after that, I pulled up fine and was ready to go. But I think I was holding back a bit, knowing, this was going to affect me the next day. So I was looking at my heart rate during that. Whereas this one, I just didn't look at anything and just pushed as hard as I can, and it makes such a big difference, like how you feel the next day.
Yeah, shit, interesting. So what's the focus now with training?
I guess just recover.
Yep.
And then try and it's not long. It's like 5 weeks, so probably I might get one good week of training in, hopefully. I only just bought like hiking poles today, so I've got to do like a crash course on how to use those. So that'll be the main focus, I reckon.
Yeah.
And just running hills and getting good at running hills again. I felt like I was good at that for a little while, but like this past week and stuff, I probably have gotten a little sidetracked and not as strong as I was a few weeks ago when I was really just smashing the hills all the time. So I think I would, if I can get another good week of like, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 meters of climbing, that'd be good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So you're from doing these kind of races. I mean, that's a big deposit for the endurance, right? You've got the 12-hour under the belt. You've done Red Bull. Now this one, building some confidence.
Definitely.
Yeah, just especially the Red Bull one, saying, that was a big push, and coming back feeling good is a good sign that you're starting to adapt to these bigger events, I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And same, like 6 hours around a track, like pushing. I mean, what was your average pace was still 4:05 or something?
Oh, I think my watch was like had me at 88 Ks instead of 85. So I think average pace was like 4:10s.
Which is still wild.
Pretty good.
Yeah. For that far. So that's all sub 3. It's like sub 3 hour pace pretty much the whole way.
Yeah, the way I did it wasn't.
Yeah. Overall.
Yeah, technically it's 2 back-to-back sub 3 marathons. So
5 weeks. Jeez. You nervous or?
Yeah, a bit nervous. Like after that was 6 hours, and the race is probably going to go for longer than 20 hours. So it's like, 3 or 4 times that, which is just absurd to think about, considering I was like so cooked after that.
Yeah, but all about intensity, right? So you're going to dial back.
Which
well, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not very good at. Like,
what's the strategy then? What are you?
I think, I'm going to have to just dial it back, and I don't know.
Yeah, but when you get on the start line,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm gonna be the
Well-
100-mile champion of the world, pretty much, and then we don't want you 3 hours into a 100-mile race cooked. So,
Yeah,
is there like how do you go about pacing those kind of events?
I think I don't want to lead, because last time when I did that Buffalo Stampede, I was in the lead and I got lost.
Yeah,
So I'll let someone else take the lead and probably just sit off of them. Like, they probably know what they're doing and know how to pace themselves better than me. So I'll just use someone else's strategy.
Yeah.
But I think that, heart rate as well, probably won't want it to be over like 150 max. So it'll just be pretty slow running the whole way. I think if I can just try and like keep running the whole time, I'll be pretty happy with myself. Obviously, have to stop a couple of times at aid stations and things like that. But I think just making sure I get the fuel in, and if I can just keep moving the whole time, I'll be stoked. And I think it'll be a good effort. But I don't know. I'm sure. Well, I think you have to walk though, up hills and things like that. So I don't know. I think if I just keep pushing the whole time, get through it, finish the race, like, it's so scary. Like, I don't know. I'm freaking out about it.
Yeah. Well, certainly don't envy you. That's for sure. Especially when you think about when we're talking about Canberra Marathon, the first marathon you did, absolutely shitting yourself about the marathon distance, and then it's like, all right, let's do a lot more of them consecutively without stopping. So ballsy, very ballsy, very ballsy.
Yeah.
But you'll get it done for sure. It's just there might be. I mean, what would you say you've learnt from those longer events that you didn't know, sort of before you did the 12-hour, for example? Anything that sticks out in terms of like a lesson?
Yeah, I guess just like trying to relax and accept, like, it is what it is, sort of thing. When you're in that much pain, I think like running on the trails is very different to running on the track though, and I'm still pretty new to that. But from the one race that I've had on the trails, it was a bit of an eye opener that it's just like there's so many different components to trail running, which I think I've talked about before. But I think that you can't expect yourself to be good at everything, and if you're not good at one thing, then just kind of accept that and try and pick up time in the other areas where you are good, and make sure you can perform well in those areas. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, it's a good recap, Tom. Sounds like it was a good race. I'm sure you're happy it's over. So
definitely,
good stuff.
It's cool. I really enjoyed it. What about you, Smitty? How's your week been?
Me?
I think I might have broken your record for longest week recap as well.
Yes. Let's see if I can one up you. No, I won't try. Trust me. It's not as exciting. So, well, it was still a good week. Definitely a good week. I did another speed session on Tuesday, which I was meant to actually do on Thursday, but I swapped them around. So I did like a longer threshold session on Thursday and then speed on Tuesday like I normally do. I swapped them out around simply because I wanted to train again with Tobias because I think they do Delta sessions on Tuesday around Gore Hill. That was a big, I'm not sure if you saw that on Strava. It was like 16 Ks of running, hard running is what it seemed like. So that they did a big session, but so Tuesday, more of the same, 8 by 145 at sort of hard interval pace, which which was good. He's kind of just being the same. That speed stuff is very similar, where you just get to the beginning of it and you're like, I just got to get this done. And there's brief moments that I find maybe on rep 6 or where you're just like, okay, I got into a rhythm on 1 rep, but I would say I'm never truly comfortable at that pace, even after doing it quite a while. But I'm just similar to what you're referring to, just accepting that it's going to be grim. And I mean, it's funny, 1 minute and 45 seconds does not seem a long time, but like it is a long time when you're like running, especially when you go back, because you take full 3 minutes rest and then, so you're feeling all right, and then you just gun it. And if you go too fast, you just go backwards so quickly. And you realize you're still running fast, but when your legs are burning, you're just like, you literally feel like you're slowing down so much. But I don't know what my point is, but I think I think it's getting. I couldn't tell because when you look at paces, it seems pretty similar going back. But Sally was mentioning that my peak power has gone up quite a bit, which is like that power you stay in for about 5 to 10 seconds. So I didn't notice that. Sally pointed that out, so that's nice to know. At least something's changing because it feels quite similar. Feels quite similar. You don't notice. I don't notice at least too much difference on the shorter stuff week to week. But yeah, good. That was a good session. Then Wednesday, I think took it easy. Thursday did some threshold intervals, so 2 by 14 minutes with a 3-minute jog in between. The 14 minutes are at sort of, like just above threshold pace. So maybe 10K, sort of 10K pace, which is good. I think it's pretty fast around the bay though, Dom. Like, yeah, it just seems quite generous.
Flat. Yeah. I don't know, could be, but if you're running to power, I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. So just keeping that consistent, running well. The power readings are coming up slightly per week since we started. Pretty consistent, pretty similar to before. Sort of in the build up to Sydney 10. So pretty similar. Then what happened? Friday completely off. Yeah, some Fridays have been different. The last few Fridays after those sessions, take them completely off. But then previously we'd do a hard session on Saturday, and we did a hard session on Sunday as well. But this week we did obviously just a shakeout on Saturday before the race today, which the race was good weather. A little bit cold to start off with, but it was like ideal, obviously, for racing. The course was not a traditional. It was in Wollongong. I did the Wollongong 10K. Course wasn't your typical road, like nothing like Sydney 10, for example. It was a little bit on the not really much on the grass, but all of it was on footpath because they didn't actually get to close the roads for some reason. So they kind of had someone. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. There was there was like good. It was nice atmosphere. There was about, I don't know, 200 other runners, but the guys in front, like the guys lining up, were from Wollongong Track Club, and there was about six of them that were looking, pretty fast and went out like fast, but they were going. I was looking at the watch because I was looking at pace, and it was about 3:30s, and my target, it was off my target. So what I did was like charge, went out on front, like took the lead, and was like,
really? Wow.
Yeah, it was stupidity, really, not even ballsy. Because I lost a lot of. I I should have just rode the momentum with the pack, because
Mm.
they ended up speeding up, and I think about 2Ks in, around 2Ks in, someone basically, the pack of them, I think it was about 5, caught up, and I was like, I'm in serious trouble here. This is not
Oh,
good.
so you were like off the front, were you?
Yeah, I was off the front, ballsy,
Yeah,
like
wow.
trying to run 3:15 pace, thinking just being an absolute hero.
Jeez.
Didn't work out for me, but
'Cause there's some pretty good runners in that group.
yeah, well, yeah, they took off 2 runners. So the pack kind of surged past me about 2Ks in, and then it split up again with 2 guys, and 3 guys in front as well. Yeah, they were pretty quick. I was looking at pacing. It was about 3:20 pace, so I knew I was well off what. Yeah, I don't know. That's why it's a bit of a trouble, because I feel like I wasn't as mentally G'd up for this one as I was for Sydney 10, if that makes sense. Like when I got in the race, I was already sort of justifying to myself a little bit that I wasn't going to have a good result. So I had to kind of ignore that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what happened? 5K, was feeling okay. And then there was a bit of trails as well, like a bit of trails towards the end of the race, which is interesting. So lots of sharp. It felt like a park run kind of atmosphere. Picture Greenway's park run, like that, times it by 2 essentially. It's a bit of, I'm going to pull the excuses out and say, there was a few turns, and then there was a hill going up in the first 2Ks going to the lighthouse, but I guess it was the downhill. It wasn't that hilly. I don't really have that many excuses. But not as fast as Sydney 10. Definitely not.
Yeah. Sydney 10 is pretty fast though.
You get into such a rhythm in Sydney 10. That's the thing. The effort just felt so much easier.
And I guess you don't have the pressure. Like it sounds like you, at the start, you're thinking about maybe placing or winning as well.
Yeah, quickly.
Whereas Sydney 10, you're not thinking about that.
No, Sydney 10, all I was thinking about was following my power instructions and making sure that I don't blow up, which I did quite well. And actually pulled I pulled just the exact same amount of power as I did for Sydney 10.
Interesting.
So,
but still, you're not too far off your PB though.
No, I finished in 33:23, which is, I'm still happy with the effort. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, the focus is definitely still on Gold Coast half. And I think I'll be more mentally G'd up for Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like you're putting a lot more weight on that, and that seems like the kind of the A race sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So overall it was a good race. It was nice to be out and have a bit of an effort. I felt like I could have put a bit more passion into it, or I felt like I could have suffered a little bit more, but I just mentally, especially during that middle part of the race, might have psyched myself out a little bit. But it's difficult to know, really. Your mind just starts playing games with you, especially in 10K, I've found. But
yeah,
good, like definitely still fit.
Yeah. Were you running with anyone in that middle part, or?
Yeah, see, I ruined it because I was about 20 seconds off, 10 to 20 seconds off the next people, and they always I was trying to catch up, but I couldn't. I could always just see them. I could just see them ahead. So I believe if I sort of held back at the beginning and paced it, didn't go out trying to be a hero. But I wasn't sure if they were going to run. If they were going to run like 35 minutes or something, because it was quite a slow start.
Yeah.
So then
I think, the guys in that field, like the guy who came third's run 2:25 marathon.
Yeah, no, they were good. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're all really good runners.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Now I know.
Like he's broken like 15 minutes. Probably like, the top 3 have all broken 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, for 5K. So,
okay.
But also I had a look at the first 5K split of yours. It was 16:42.
Yep.
And that puts you at number 1 with the Chiefs Handicap Challenge. So, congratulations, mate! You are currently.
Am I the only one that's done it, or?
Well, I took my 5K split, and I took another guy's 5K split. He did a 10K race, Stu Dono. So you're first, Stu's in second, and I'm in third currently after the first week of the challenge. But we've got the whole month of June, so the door's still wide open. And so that you're only 26 seconds off your seed time though, which is pretty promising considering it was a 10K race. So I think
I would if I'm gonna have to do a 5K somewhere. I think I might try and do it on a track. What do you reckon?
Yeah, possibly.
And try and even
or something.
duck under 16 minutes. Big call, but
that'd be big. Yeah,
that'd be huge if I could do that. I'll have to have a chat with Sally and see if I can chuck a 5K in somewhere. Yeah. I think what is it? 3:12s. I think on a good day I might get close.
Yeah, I reckon. Like
on a track as well.
Seems like you've been like there or abouts for a little while now, so.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Yeah, I'm keen to. Good. Yeah, that's a good reminder. I'm keen to give that a crack. That's for sure. 15 something sounds glorious.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Oh God, the 5K is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's hard. Hey,
who would Sotar would be? Is Sotar doing it?
I think he's in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll just pull it up. Yeah, his seed time is slower than yours.
Oh, controversy.
16:13, and yours is 16:16. Oh no, he's quicker.
Yeah,
3 seconds quicker.
Good stuff. I'm happy with that. Maybe we get a bunch of people and do it on a track.
Yeah, or at a park run or something.
Or a park run, yeah, but yeah.
You want to go fast?
I want to go fast, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we could try and organise that.
Yeah, that might be
fun. I think there's not many tracks opens on the weekends though. It's usually just like after work.
Yeah.
Because ES Marks is still closed. So it'd have to be Homebush. But I think Homebush might be open on the weekends though.
Surely Homebush would be in the morning we can go when they open.
Yeah. I think we've done that before. Yeah.
That could be fun.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So it turned out good. Still happy. Just very, very humbled. Try not to be a hero next time is the note to myself. But those guys were definitely. You could even see when they were running, they were just so much more. They were just very controlled. Looked like they had everything in line, sort of thing. When they started surging ahead of me, I was like, I've definitely made a fatal mistake here. And I tried to hang on. I tried to hang on, but they were too quick. Turnover was good. Yeah. They had they ended up running. I think the winner ran 32 flat or something, roughly. But anyway. All right, that is a huge chunk of the episode dedicated to the race recap / training week, but that's what you do when you don't have a guest, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Yeah, we didn't say there's no guest this week.
Can you imagine?
If you listened this far waiting for a guest.
Here's the guest. How are you? This is yeah, more like a producer at that point, not a guest. You know.
Cheers.
Yeah.
But yeah, instead of having a guest on, we were going to do a little summary of a book called Endure by Alex Hutchinson,
Mm-hmm.
the Canadian running journalist. He's written a few books, and this one's pretty good. Me and Smitty, I remember at the time when we were reading it, I was like, oh my God, this is like the best book I've ever read. But it's funny, like, I don't know, now you look back on it and you're like, oh yeah, it was okay. It was a pretty good book. I'd still recommend it, but
definitely not.
you have that initial when you're reading something, it's like, wow, this is incredible. Yeah.
No, I remember one of our mates started a book club, Martino, and you were going to recommend this book to the book club. And it's like, it's literally the most full on, like, basically it goes through various different scientific experiments specifically about running, and you're going to recommend it to people that like don't barely into running. Martino's completed running after he did a half marathon. Yeah, that would have been controversial. I don't think you would have been very popular after that.
No, yeah. I'm glad you kind of did a little taste test for me.
I was reading it like, Dom, this is very running specific.
Oh no, the first chapter is like okay, it's not that running specific, but then it just starts talking about like VO2 max and all this other stuff that's not really
mate,
for anyone. Yeah.
I mean, for example, the second chapter is an experiment that was in 1807 talking about testing lactate. It's like, I don't know how, it's not really the philosophy book that book club would have wanted, I don't think. But anyway, it is definitely interesting, and I see where you were coming from, Dom.
Yeah, no, it's a good book. I read it.
Yeah, so we're going to go through the first part, and it's split into different chapters, but each chapter goes through a different aspect of running. So it's split up essentially. Chapter 2, which we'll go over, it's called The Human Machine. It looks at different, it looks at VO2 max specifically, or it looks at the human body in the lens of the fact that it can have a specific cutoff limit. I think that's what it covers. So there's a few experiments that go through that. Then it kind of just drills down from there. So I guess if we start with chapter 2, The Human Machine, I guess they were looking at basically, well, they're talking about VO2 max essentially. What is your view on VO2 max as a lens for? Because I know it's pretty different. Like, for example, some people can have quite a lower VO2 max, and people have a higher and lower VO2 max, but run at the same speed. So it's not always like if you have this VO2 max, then it's going to equate to. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, I think that's another sort of component called like running economy, which is like how efficient your body is when you're running. Because you got like cyclists or people from different sports who have really high VO2 maxes, but they're not runners, so they're obviously not going to run as fast as someone who's a trained runner with possibly a lower VO2 max. But I think back in the day, they thought that, the VO2 max was everything. And like your VO2 max was like a perfect predictor of everything, like how fast you could go. If someone's got a higher VO2 max than you, then you're no chance of beating them. But I think this whole sort of chapter explored that theory and how VO2 max was first sort of derived back in the 1800s, I think it was, which is pretty crazy. It's been around for a while then, if that's the case. But yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I think that VO2 max is definitely important, but there's more to it than just that.
I think when you train, I mean, a lot of the faster stuff you do, or maybe even 1K reps, train your VO2 max, and you have to train at that pace, which is your max, essentially, to improve it. But I mean, as we've done in previous episodes and talked to different people, it's only one component of running. You mentioned running economy, Dom, which just comes, and running efficiency, I think, comes with time on feet as well. Just getting your body used to the process of running, and then also lactate threshold is a big one, which is a different training, a different function as well.
Yeah.
So if you simplify it, can you think maybe VO2 max is the upper end, sort of your upper limits for a short burst of time, and then your lactate threshold is that is sort of like maybe even is basically the pace you can run at for a longer period of time before you deteriorate. So maybe for a well-trained runner, I think it was about half marathon pace. But to lift the bar, you kind of got to train both.
Yeah. So I think VO2 max was originally sort of the be all and end all, and then later, I think like in the 19th century, they started finding out about like the anaerobic sort of threshold, and looking into, I think they discovered like lactic acid, which I think it's now like no longer that's the term, but they found like lactic acid as a byproduct of energy sort of burning or running hard or using your muscles or whatever. And they figured that lactic acid must be related to how well you can kind of perform, and how well you can, if you can tolerate that lactic acid, then you'll be able to run better, which is where that anaerobic sort of threshold ties into it.
Yeah. Which is what you do. That's kind of your, your harder threshold reps that, for example, I've been doing on a Thursday, which is training that before you get to your VO2 max, or training harder, you will train just at that threshold, and then obviously you have a shorter rest and repeat, which is I think training what you're describing, but it is a little bit, I think we're oversimplifying it, but essentially from what this book is highlighting, they started with an idea of VO2 max, like you said. There's not too much actually outside of that in chapter 2 that I found, but this is when they start going to, okay, if we go to chapter 3, it's called the Central Governor. I was joking with you, Dom, because I think David Goggins used to describe the governor. He says basically we all have I think he makes a more broader reference that we all have a governor on our mind, basically limiting us. We have like limiting beliefs, all these different things we tell ourselves that stop us. I think Dom, you there? I lost your camera.
Mate.
Oh, jeez, your camera disappeared, and I was like, hang on a minute. Testing.
Have you got it now?
We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Can you see me? No.
I can't see you, but I can hear you. Camera is disabled due to slow internet connection. Video is still recorded. Mate, interesting. All right, well, the show goes on.
Is that on my end or?
That's on yours, yeah. I don't know.
I've turned the camera off now and turn it on. Can you see it now?
No, it's black.
That's weird. I think it might still be okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's still recording. It just turned the camera off for some reason.
Because I can still see myself, but...
Well, that's good, Dom. Pew, pew. Oh, there we go. You're back. And he's back. All right, I think that segued at a good time because I was clutching at straws about VO2 max at the end there, Dom.
Yeah.
And should we say a bit of a disclaimer that we don't know what we're talking about, and that we're not that we are basically Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm a battler runner. Dom is a seasoned record holder, the champ, the under 30 champ. But disclaimer: we don't know what we're talking about. There we go. Now we can move on. Because you don't want to be talking about these very scientific things, and then someone listens and goes, "Oh, the chief said." Can you imagine?
Yeah, I feel like there's been a bit of that already. Like, just I don't know. Probably have said some stuff that scientifically doesn't stand up, but oh well. Yeah.
All right, the central governor. We were talking about David Goggins this chapter. Tim Noakes. He was a rower of the University of Cape Town. He believed VO2 max was a useless metric. So strong. What I found in this book is, as they start contradicting each other, and like there's some beef between them as well, because they sort of knew each other. But anyway, that was a funny sort of dynamic that was going on through the book. And yeah, so he was researching better ways to measure endurance, rare occurrences. So he was looking at rare occurrences, including deaths, which suggested that something, people always pushing themselves in endurance events. So the fact that deaths are so rare would point to the fact that reaching our limit. How do we know we're reaching our limits? Obviously, something is intervening to stop us, like before we get to the limit where we might cook ourselves, because obviously people have just pushed themselves. Like you look at David Goggins, but obviously a lot of runners just push themselves to absolute oblivion. But normally there's sort of subconscious things that regulate us from going to the well too much. What do you reckon about that in general, Dom?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting concept because, like, I guess death is the ultimate sort of metric. If you push yourself to the absolute limit, then you're going to die. But yeah, it's a good point. That never really happens. So yeah, well done, Tim Noakes, I guess.
Oh, it's almost funny at the moment when you're like, we already covered that one, Dom. All right, so they go through in the book, athlete Diane Van Duren. I probably absolutely butchered that, but anyway, this ultra runner, this lady actually went at age 37. She underwent elective brain surgery that removed a tumor in her brain to prevent seizures she was having. As a result of that, she essentially affected her short-term memory and a bunch of different things. But she was actually a very successful ultra runner, and the fact that what they found is the fact that she had affected short-term memory was actually a benefit for ultra running, even though she had to have someone with her sort of at all times, like crewing, just because if she get lost, she doesn't know where she is, that sort of thing. So it was quite an interesting thing. But yeah, because she didn't sort of have a concept of how far she has to go in the short term, it actually helped her because she could just keep pushing, almost like she forgot. Not almost. She did essentially forget how far the distance was. Yeah, how much do you think that sort of knowing how far we have to go holds us back in those longer events?
Yeah, definitely. I think it holds you back a lot. Like even, I guess, just talking from the 6 hour, like knowing that the record was right there and that, yeah, it only went for 6 hours, I was absolutely able to push myself a lot harder than if you said, oh no, you're just going to have to keep on running until we say stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a pretty cool story about how it's all in your brain, and if someone got brain surgery and just cut out a section of their brain, then it's enabled them to push so much harder. And yeah, but yeah, I think she always had to have like a guide with her because she would get like lost, or I don't know,
Yeah,
stuff
because
would happen, or is
short-term
that
memory
yeah?
means she couldn't really read maps properly or keep track of where she was on the course, I think.
Mm.
So she could, I think they made a joke, could be out running for 2 weeks. But if it was day one, like sort of, if someone told it was day one, she'd be like, okay, great, let's get started, sort of thing, even though she'd been out for 2 weeks. So she just didn't have that concept, which is kind of scary when you think about it, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, seems like it'd be incredibly scary, but maybe when you're experiencing it, because you don't know, your brain doesn't know the alternate. Like, you're not going to remember, obviously, what it's like to remember past short term,
yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah. I guess like your muscles are probably like fatigued to some extent, but your brain is controlling so much of it.
Yeah,
And yeah, if you take that element out of it, there's so much more you can give, um, which is pretty crazy, pretty interesting. Like that, this has happened to someone.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I was just going over the sort of the notes I've had. It's just,
Hmm.
yeah, interesting. Oh, yeah. So another section in this chapter talks about the dynamics of the end, like the end of a race, and they
Hmm.
sort of reviewed. I think most runners that have done sort of longer distance races, anywhere from maybe 5K onwards, above, understands that for some reason when you're G'd up in a race, you're going to be a lot more sort of able to perform, which is a thing that you can't always explain, because normally you can get a lot more performance out depending on if the conditions are good, if you're in a good group, all those sort of things gel together, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
That's an interesting thing to think about. And then also what they went through is call it the end spurt, essentially, which is finding that extra gear at the end of a race. Um, you can just sort of pull it out of the bag, essentially. And they looked at different, I think it was world records or like a bunch of
Hmm.
different records, and looked at the running speed at the end of the race. And they found that there's always sort of like a spike at the end, the
Hmm.
last, and they sort of, runners normally close the fast, only except for the 800 meter, which you'll be familiar with. You can't really
Yeah.
close faster.
Hmm.
But yeah, sorry, mile, 5,000, 10,000. There's always a little spurt of performance at the end. Yeah, what do you make of that, Dom?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of where this all sort of ties into. I think that yeah, every world record over 800 meters has been run with a negative split. So
Mm.
800 and lower. I think even like all the sprint races as well, possibly. They're all positively split where they run faster at the start and then slower in the end, whereas all the distance races are slower at the start and faster in the end, which
Makes
yeah,
no
it's
sense.
interesting because yeah, for most punters, it's pretty hard to do that.
Mm. Yeah. Do you have any? Do you have any instances where you found you found another level, another gear towards the end of a big race? I imagine maybe your 5K PB, Dom.
Yeah, I think the 5K definitely. Um, you always seem to be able to yeah just find another gear in that last kilometer. Like it's funny. Like you think you get to 3 kilometers and you're feeling like I don't know pretty average, but then once you tell yourself you've only got 1 kilometer to go, you can really pick it up. I think even yeah yesterday, like knowing I had 1 hour to go, it was like okay, that's all right. I can do this. I've already been out here for 5 hours. What's another hour? Like just put it in.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like it goes over that whole concept of thinking like like how much of the mental side actually affects running. Like how much does that mental aspect, whether knowing that you only have this amount of time to go, then translates to performance, right? Because I mean, anyone that's run a 5K like you're talking about in the 3K, especially on a track, it's kind of like a death march, and you sort of start going downhill and you like really start hurting at that 3K point, and then towards the like 3 to 4K is probably normally the slowest, depending on, and then like 800 meters you can sort of just really really dig deep, which is interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. So you normally can suffer a lot more than you think you can, which is crazy. Because, well, think about 10K, think about the race, all the things that your mind is like telling you, right? It's like basically trying to get you to slow down, essentially. It's like even Goggins talks about, or almost like the way he makes it dark, in the sense that it's like you're at war with your mind. But in a sense you are. Like you even your mind's trying to play games with you to tell you to slow down, but sort of weaving past that, you can speed up. But then you think about it, like it's not, you're not superhuman as well, if that makes sense. Because we were talking about in the Jack Daniels episode, like no race is a fluke sort of thing. Like you've gotten yourself into so it's a question of how much extra performance can you get out of yourself based on the training you've done.
It's interesting as well that they talk about how in all these races there's like these big goals, I guess, that everyone sets for themselves. Like if it's a 3-hour marathon or a 4-hour marathon or whatever.
Yeah.
And they found that looking at the results, there's big clusters of people at each of those kind of barriers. But I guess their point is that, you can push yourself a lot harder to get there, or some people probably could have gone harder to go beyond there and maybe put on an extra 5 or 10 minutes on their time. But because there's not that sort of incentive to do that, like it's such a big thing to break one of those time barriers, like for you personally, or your, I don't know, society kind of knows what that means.
Well,
so that kind of can hold you back or push you forward, if depending on where you sit on that spectrum.
Yeah, well, if you look at a goal time, that's kind of what orients you towards racing. Like if you say I want to break 3 hours in the marathon, for example, that gives you data on how you should, like what you need to aim for in training. It also gives you feedback. Like a lot of the time you feel good in training because you're performing better than what you expected in terms of paces, and maybe that's like it puts you in good stead for running the pace, but sorry, the goal time in the race. But when you think of the actual race, like for example, when I thought of when I did my first marathon, you're always sort of seeing, where am I in terms of pace? Where am I sitting? What am I going to have to do for the later stages of the race? Your mind's always kind of, it's like a compass towards what the goal you're trying to achieve. And it can be subconscious as well, right? Like sometimes you're not consciously, like I've found a lot of things sometimes in life as well. You kind of just, if you have a strong target, you kind of somehow just end up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. Well, it was like yesterday, like the record was the thing that I was going for, and that was the thing that kept me going. Like, and I only just got there, but if the record was 83 kilometers or something, or 84 kilometers instead of 85, like I probably wouldn't have gone as far as I had, or I don't know, maybe if the record was 86 kilometers, like I could have gone further. But it's funny how it works like that.
This is a bit of a tangent, and I'm going to describe basically when I had my time early on in my sales career. You have like a sales target, right? And you set it for yourself, and you're like, oh God, this seems ridiculous. Like if you want if you want to hit this target, like say 50 connections in 1 week, right? And maybe you get to like even, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday might be slow, and Thursday you might do well, and then like for some reason, like even on by the end of Sunday, you get so close to it or exceed it, and it's like it can be, you just don't know how, like it just comes together somehow. I don't know. It's like something operating subconscious.
Yeah.
Almost. So I
It's
think
weird.
that,
I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, you kind of like set the target, and then your actions sort of just accommodate for that. So like, I don't know, as soon as you believe that, okay, like I could do that, then everything else in your life sort of just starts working around that. Like, I guess like what you said, like subconsciously or consciously. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not really. Like you don't understand how you're going to get there a lot of the time. But if you do, I think if you do, it speaks a lot about belief, like putting belief in what you're trying to do, so it can sort of orient you in the right way. Depends what you're going for. It was always, those kind of goals were always kind of a little bit scary, but also motivating. Like this kind of intrigue, just like running goals. Think about running goals. Like when you first set the goal, I want to run, I want to run 3-hour marathon, or even when I set sub 45. Yeah, I get the same feeling when I set sub 45 10K goal that I get when I'm trying to break, I don't know, 33. When I tried to break 33, yeah, it's a weird one. It's very interesting. But have you had any similar outside of well, I guess you could say that about all your races, right? Where you've set a time.
Yeah. But yeah, outside of running, or I guess like doing the HSE, like I set this idea that I wanted a certain ATAR, and it was crazy. I got like just above it. So,
yeah, it's fucking cooked.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's plenty of other instances like that. Yeah.
All right, Dom. So we how many podcast listens should we start praying to this mystical Nah, don't play that game.
No, yeah.
That was pointless. Anyway, yeah, interesting. Well, a lot's been written about the subconscious aspect to you. Well, think about, okay, now that we're talking about this, think about learning any skill, right? You know, when it's all conscious and when you're crap at anything, it's like very awkward and stuff like that. But once you get used to it, once you've repeated it so many times, I think I'm talking about something completely different. But like, you don't even think, you're not thinking about what you're doing. So that part of your mind has got to be just very very powerful, I believe. Anyway, that last part had no relevance to what we're talking about, but we'll it's all good. It's all good. Okay. Yeah, that's a fascinating chapter. So chapter 4, Dom, is called The Conscious Quitter. Goes through Samuel Makora, I think it is, a researcher, University of Kent, and he looked at what role does mental fatigue play in endurance. He used things like brain training to actually train endurance. What do you think about mental fatigue and how it affects your running in training and racing?
Yeah, definitely. I think it plays a big role. Like, I don't know, they say like stress is stress, and yeah, I feel like if I've had like a big day at work, or have been using my brain a lot, and then go into a big session or something, like I just can't perform, even though like my body is well rested and I've done everything else right. It's just, yeah, mentally you're exhausted and you can't push yourself to the level that you would be able to otherwise if you were able to sort of shut it down or to have the right mental build up. But yeah, I think like brain training and stuff like that as well, I guess. If you can sort of, the more time that you can spend sort of preparing for something mentally, or even when you're training, if you can put yourself in the right headspace and get the reps in, then the next time you do it, it's going to be easier as well. So
it's an interesting one.
I think it's probably something that gets overlooked a bit.
I think
by a lot of people.
I remember distinctly when we used to do long runs Sunday afternoon. Remember after, like ages ago when we first started running, we'd do long runs Sunday in the afternoon after I finished a shift.
Yeah.
I always remember like those felt like an eternity compared to doing a long run in the morning. It just was so much more difficult to mentally G up. And even I remember like halfway through just being like, this is terrible. This is just terrible, because I don't know, you're a lot more but I find that training in the doing a session, like a hard session in the afternoon as opposed to in the morning. That's why I like to get my training done in the morning, because like you feel like basically, you're just a lot more G'd up in the morning because you're fresh, I find. And then in the evening, like especially if you're trying to do, I used to do the midweek long runs on, I think it was Thursday. You do that in the morning. It's like, yeah, okay, that's the first thing. It's probably one of the most strenuous thing you're going to do. And you kind of, if you're on tired legs from the day before, you kind of have to mentally push yourself in that later stages. Whereas in the, like if you do that in the afternoon after a day of work, it's like so much more difficult. So when I think of this chapter, I think of that mental fatigue playing into, and also they made a point that it, like, the relative efforts feel a lot, if you're mentally fatigued, relative efforts feel different as well. So it's interesting. That's interesting.
I guess the other component is like the self-talk that you have to yourself while you're actually doing stuff as well. And I guess when you're fatigued, you're a lot more likely to fall into a negative headspace.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Whereas if you can kind of get yourself up and say, oh, no, I'm feeling good, like, I don't know, this is easy. Or if you can get to that place where it's all working for you, then it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, how do you find during your work day, how do you find how you perform mentally in the morning as opposed to after lunch?
Oh, yeah, definitely a lot better in the morning. And I often do like the tasks that need a bit more thinking in the morning, and leave the admin stuff till the afternoon when it doesn't matter as much if you make a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's I was about to say my job is a bit lower stakes than working at the airport, but I think it's interesting. I have a similar experience at work. In the morning, you feel fresh. I feel you're a lot more creative. You can be a lot more creative in the morning, and I also find in the afternoon, you're a lot more. I'm a lot more susceptible to distractions, and also, the easy way, all that sort of stuff. Like, you might waste time, whereas in the morning, your mental, sort of the willpower that you draw on during the day is a lot stronger, which I think just has to tie into running. They can't be separate, right? Like if you got a hard session to do, if you're already in that fatigue part of the day mentally, if you're mentally fatigued towards the end of the day, then I imagine there'd be crossovers and the same sort of dynamic.
Yeah, definitely.
So any other points on this chapter? I think the funny Yeah, so basically he was making that. He argued that anything that moves the effort dial in your head up or down affects how far or fast you can run. So when you're having those cognitively demanding things at work, for example, it's going to actually impact. It's going to actually impact your running. So if you think of practical things you could do, but I don't know. I know there's a lot of. I wonder. It'd be interesting to see what other runners think about this, because a lot of people like training in the afternoon, or you see a lot of people training in the afternoon. So I
Yeah.
wonder if it's a consistent thing, consistent experience.
Yeah, I think I probably prefer training in the afternoon.
Right. Okay.
But like I like to, the reason is because in the morning I like to have good sleep. And yeah, like I feel like if I haven't had a good sleep, then I won't train as well in the mornings. But training in the afternoon, I guess your body's woken up throughout the day as well. And if you've got the time, you can put the time in, like, I don't know, if you've got half an hour before where you can, I don't know, just kind of actually settle down and prep yourself for the session ahead. Whereas in the morning, I feel like it's all time constrained. Like the deadline is work. There's no deadline at the end in the afternoon.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like mentally you can prepare yourself in that way a bit better.
Right. Okay. But how do you say you might be actually hindered by your performance might be hindered in the morning because you're stressed about or you're worried about getting to work, or you want to get a little bit more sleep, so you kind of that's playing on your mind in a way.
Definitely.
And what they're talking about is that, like, there's a group in the studies they did. They basically, the way they did experiment was actually spur people on by saying like, you're feeling good, like, and telling them to push through stuff and stuff like that. So they practiced telling themselves these things, and it sort of they said that it made a distance. So let me just read this. So the self-talk group learned to use certain phrases like feeling good, and others later in the race or workout like push through this, and they practiced using the phrases during training to figure out which ones felt most comfortable. So when they actually did the test, the self-talk group, the people that have been practiced that, lasted 18% longer than the control group, which didn't, which is pretty interesting how these sort of, which is kind of why the mind games can work in your favor. Or it's like if you're telling yourself, I've trained for this, I've done all I can, like, if you have positive self-talk, it could make a big difference as opposed to negative. But there's a lot of dynamics outside of just running. Maybe we might be overcomplicating it, I don't know, but it seems interesting.
No, it's an interesting book. That's just a couple of chapters that we've summarized.
Yep, part one done. We might return and do part two as well at some later stage when we don't have a guest. But we might wrap it up there. Dom, what do you reckon? Anything you want to cover off before we end the show?
Or in the book as well. I can remember they talk about at the start of the book, they talk about, like, what is it, Ernest Shackleton, the explorer?
Oh yeah, I forgot about this part.
Crossing the Antarctic. I think that kind of ties into this as well, because he was trying to get to the South Pole and be the first man ever to get to the South Pole, but I think he got like 100 miles short of it and had to stop. But then he had to turn around and go all the way back. So it was like he was only 100 miles short of it, but he had to go like all the way back. Whereas if he got to the South Pole, he would have had to go all the way as well, but it probably wouldn't have been that far. But
why do you remember why they had to?
or I think that, like he just thought he couldn't go on anymore. And if he wanted to
make it back,
get back and be alive and everything, he made the decision to turn around and go back.
Wow.
But I guess it ties into this because it's like that conscious quitter. Like he, I guess he made that decision. He probably, I don't know, maybe he would have survived, maybe he wouldn't have. But yeah, interesting.
How does that? I don't know if I quite understand. Like how? So when he's on the way back, he's kind of like, I wonder how you sustain motivation because you're not going any further.
Yeah, true.
You're just trekking it all the way back.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think there was something about that as well.
Maybe we should reread the first chapter.
Yeah.
People listening will be like, you guys literally, did you even read this? Or did you search Google endure chapter summary? it's like you surely didn't read it, or just get the best bits, mate. Just get the best bits. Oh, classic. All right, Alex, if you're listening, please don't hold this against us. We're just battlers trying to make sense of this running thing. We are not professionals. And we did read the book, though, but normally you forget a lot about the book. But Dom, I really enjoyed this episode. Is there any shout-outs, anything to mention?
No shout-outs or anything. Just a reminder to stay fast.
Stay strong.
And stay fast.
Stay fast. See you, Chief.
See you, Chief.